Reverend Dr. Raymond Abban, born March 26th in Accra, is a prophet, conference speaker, author, businessman, and philanthropist. He attended Adisadel College and continued to the University of Ghana and University of East London. His business consists of real estate, banking and finance, transportation, oil and gas. His passion is to empower people to greatness with his NGO, Noel Foundation. This organization has over the years supported individuals to go to school through fully and paid scholarships. The organization has a free feeding program for street hawkers and the aged. Reverend Abban has authored books including 40 Days of Power, Pray Without Ceasing, Not Lost But Hidden, amongst others. He is the founder and general overseer of Glory Center International. The church started in London as Gloria Life Chapel 2010. Now operating under Glory Center International, the church has been impactful in reaching out to the vulnerable and needy, not just with the word of good, but also giving financial support and any other support to get these people on their feet. Let's welcome Prophet Dr. Raymond Abban to Pathways to Success.
Welcome to our special edition of Pathway to Success. I have with me tonight on Pathway to Success, Dr. Raymond Abban. He was born in the beautiful, beautiful nation of the Republic of Ghana. And he's our first time, we have created history, Dr. Raymond Abban, and been on Pathway to Success, first time in our 3 years of doing this show. We've ever interviewed anyone from the continent of Africa. Welcome to Pathway to Success.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm glad I'm here.
Great having you on this show. But tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you first become interested in business, and what inspired you to pursue multiple ventures in different industries?
Well, as a young boy born and bred in Africa, I moved to the United Kingdom at a very early age, and then by the grace of God, after all the academics and ministry, I heard a prayer a man of God prayed.
Yes.
That prayer did a lot for me, and he wasn't even praying for me. He was praying a generic prayer in a conference, and he says that, I pray that may the Lord give you grace to do many things at the same time, and may the Lord give you grace to achieve a lot at the same time. Now, I remember when I left that meeting, I know God is able to do a lot of things, but I also realized that most of the time we achieve one thing at a time, and we have been taught to one step at a time, trust God for every process. But I had never thought of the fact that we could do many things at the same time. And I've always been interested in things that are outside the borders of the church. So that's where business came in. Real estate was the beginning, transportation there, a little bit of oil here. And then we got into small banking as well, which we still do all of these things. And by the grace of God, the prayer of Bishop Dax still makes a lot of sense to me, to be able to do many things at the same time, because whether we like it or not, God is able to get us to do many things at the same time. But that is only possible because there is grace available to get us there.
Tell us something. While growing up, your parents, tell us a little bit about your parents. Because tell us a little bit about your parents.
My mother is a medical assistant. So growing up in the house of somebody that is prone to medicine, my father was a pharmacist. He's late at the moment. So you're birthed into an academic environment where all they wish you is to be able to go through the schools of life and then make something of yourself. I remember when I was venturing into ministry, they still didn't understand what it meant because I'm the first generation of pastors in my family. I don't have an uncle who is a pastor. I don't have a grandfather. I'm the first generation of it in my family. So it's something very different for them. I remember somebody asking my father, is this the only sensible thing your son can do? And after many years, before my father passed away, he noticed it was the only sensible thing I can do because through it, you see, most people succeed in other ventures and then they come into ministry. I went into ministry and ministry made me successful with every other venture I touched. I was 13 years when I came into ministry.
13 years.
I didn't come into ministry as an old person. I started ministry at a very young age. I was still in school when the Lord started opening my eyes, when I started preaching, when I started doing the things of God. By 16 years, I had already left home in the quest of finding God for myself and being able to stand on my own 2 feet. So the grace of God is what saw me out of the house, saw me through ministry, and gave me all the other arms of businesses that we attach to Glory Center International to make it what it is.
So you started preaching at the age of 13 in school.
Yes.
And then you decide to leave home at the age of 16 to go to where? Is it Bible school or tell us?
Funny enough, at 16 years, when I left home, I didn't have anywhere I was going to. I remember I stayed with friends for a bit who were into ministry, but there was a friend who we stayed in their home. His mother had an inclination to ministry, so it was easy to be in that environment. I stayed at a church's mission house where we were apart for a while. So I didn't have a stable place to stay for a couple of years until the Lord began to help me. So it's one friend, the church's mission house. So there is no particular place. I stayed for a couple of years.
So you are the first generation pastor of the family.
Yes.
Entire generation of family.
Mhm.
And you're the most successful of the family person.
Yes.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Could you tell us more about, because you're also academically brilliant.
I try.
Your academics is just, oh my God, at the highest level. You tell us some of the places.
I
you
only have the
studied.
first degree. I haven't done anything past the first degree, but I believe I probably would do more. I started law, read about a year, and then deferred it. So hopefully, maybe in the near distant future, I would finish the law degree as well. But I believe it's not so much the academics, but it's me personally that likes to consume knowledge. In ministry, I heard something when I moved to the United Kingdom. I think I was still a teenager or almost my early 20s. The strength of my ministry is the prophetic. But I heard something that was very insulting to me. I heard that all prophets can't preach. In other words, our strength was just thou sayest the Lord.
I've heard that too. I've heard that before.
And it bothered me because to me, how am I able to articulate thou sayest the Lord if I can't teach his word? Because at the end of the day, his word is God. Every prophecy is anchored in scripture.
Right.
So I took it upon me to make sure that I'm well read up. And in that quest, I began to enjoy studying. So I study any and everything. And I've realized that not only does it help me as a minister, but it helps me in my personal life. Because it doesn't matter where you put me, I'm not lost for words. I would be able to communicate my way through anything. And it's not because I'm so smart, it's just because I like to study.
What humility. What grace.
Any successful person must be a studious person.
Must be a studious person.
You cannot thrive in a society on what you do not know. You are only as good as the information you have. You are only as good as the knowledge you acquire. I know it's pathway to success, but let me quote Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever the soles of your foot will tread, that you will possess. The amount of knowledge you have determines what you get in this life. While we sat here, they cooked up for my bio, and then they worked up all that in a few minutes. You and I cannot do that.
No.
We don't have the skill to do it. But as soon as they picked the bio and the pictures, they came up with all of that in a few minutes. That is knowledge they have on how to work. Now, in this life, we leave anybody who is going to succeed at anything, any and everything, not just ministry, not just business, something as basic as family life, something as basic at your work. If you do not learn, if you are not studious, if you don't have the knowledge for it, you will fail.
Well said. Well said. Could you tell us more before we go on more? Before we go towards the Noel Foundation, which you have formed, you said at the age of 13, your eyes. I'm excited because it's the first I'm interviewing a prophet on this platform, Pathway to Success. You said your eyes was opened. For those who are watching, there's a secular show. Maybe a lot of persons don't know who a prophet is. What's the function of a prophet?
Okay.
Could you enlighten us on that?
A prophet sees, hears, and communicates the mind of God. Now, the secular world who doesn't come to church like you and I, dabble in things like palm readers, psychics, and all of that. Now, the difference is that one does not come from God, the other comes from God. Now, the giftings of God manifest in various ways. One of mine is the prophetic gift. I operate a prophetic office so I can handle the gift. It started very early for me. At that age, it was frightening. It wasn't as well as I handle it today, where I'm comfortable with the gift, because some of the things I used to see were scary. I wouldn't understand them, and I didn't have anybody to explain them to me. So I survived it through prayer, and then I got to meet people who understood the gift, handled the gift, and then they helped me through it while I grew.
In school. Now, imagine if I was in your class and I know that you had a gift like this.
They didn't know I had a gift.
They didn't. Oh, they didn't know, because I said I would ask you what you think what the score I made on my on my exam.
It wasn't as vibrant today as it was when I was 13.
Right. Yeah. So when you came to that realization that you had this gift, how did it start? Was it in dreams? You started getting dreams, or you'd be sitting and you just see an open eye vision?
It did start with dreams that I do remember very well, because I was in Adisada College when this started. It did start in dreams, and it grew very quickly from dreams to open visions, where you're seeing things and all of that. And then it became very audible, and then they began to grow to where God has brought it to today.
We've heard about Nostradamus. We've heard about him predicting some the predictions, and we've seen things come to pass. Yet, persons would say that Nostradamus wasn't a born again believer, but it's evident that he had a gift. Does God show you like things in details, like a person's name, or what will happen to a person's moving forward?
Which means we get it back, deviate off the subject here.
Right. No, I'm going to. Yes, I'm going to go into
the prophetic. Comes in various forms. Like the Nostradamus is predictive,
right?
But the challenge with Nostradamus is that most of us didn't know who he was.
Right.
So we don't even know his relationship as to whether to God or to something else. But I said the other day that it's not just a prophet that gets to predict. The palm reader reading your palm is predicting.
Yeah.
The psychic is predicting. The difference is not the information. The difference is the source.
Yes.
If it comes from God, then we get. But for somebody who doesn't know God like you and I do, they are comfortable wherever they get their information from.
Right.
Somebody going to an Obia man is going for the same thing a Christian is coming from. Right. But we urge people to come to God because We understand that the devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But the Son of Man comes to give life and give it more abundantly. Whatever the devil gives, he will take back twice. Whatever God gives, he gives freely. So we encourage people that in every area of their lives, be it ministry, be it business, be it family, it doesn't matter where you are, your source must always be God. That is where you know that you are chartering a course that will bring you success. David says something that I have seen the wicked and it looks like they thrive and they're doing better. It makes it look as if worshiping God is not worth it, because when the wicked is succeeding and the believer is struggling, then he writes and says, but to mark the end of a man, or the man of the upright is peace. So you may be able to get through certain things without God, but the end of it will not be peace.
Will not be peace. Wow. You're a philanthropist, a businessman, pastor of a very successful church.
We're still growing.
It's still a successful church. Could you tell us a little bit about Noel, the Noel Foundation, and how it has impacted the lives of those it serves in the community?
Noel Foundation. That's the.
How do you give that name?
It's the name of my first daughter. Her name is Noel Princess Abban. Now,
Noel Princess Abban.
Noel Foundation was actually commissioned on the day of her christening. Her, in our country, we call it outdooring, or her naming ceremony. Now, when Noel was born, I was praying. She was my first daughter, so everything is special about it. So, and I asked God to keep her. So I remember the day before the outdooring, or the ceremony by which we named the baby in our country, the Lord gave me an instruction to feed homeless people with the same food I'm feeding my guests.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, it would be easier if I paid a chef to cook something cheap, but we held it at a pretty pricey place, like my mother says. And then I asked the chef in the place to cook an extra 100 plates of food at the same cost as what all the invited guests were getting. And everybody wondered what I was going to do with the extra food. So we had served all the guests, everybody is filled, ceremony is over. So I told my team to pick up the food and whatever the guest was not served to the guest. And I led them myself onto the streets of Accra.
Wow.
And we gave to homeless people, beggars, people who couldn't afford. And then when we're done with that, God instructed me to make sure that as much as I can, I don't leave people hungry like that. So we formed the foundation, and the core aim of the foundation was to make sure that as much as we can't do it all because we don't have that much resources to take it off. But as much as we can, homeless people are fed, less privileged kids go to school on me, and we've done this up until today. Now, I was discussing with you the other day about the new church project we're going to do. It's the basis for the restaurant I was talking to you about, where I still wanted to do a 200-seater restaurant that is free of charge 24 hours a day.
Wow.
Which means, and I told the team, I don't want a low-scale restaurant where it's only cheap. I want a place the high and mighty can walk in and don't have to pay for food.
That's good. That's great.
So Noel Foundation will be the umbrella that takes care of that. So I'm believing that not only what we have done until now, but what we will be able to do in the distant future. I heard a scripture that says, I was hungry and you fed me. I was naked, you clothed me. And then they asked, Lord, we never saw you hungry, we never saw you naked. And then he said, for what you have done for one of these, you have done for me. If the only thing I can do for God in this time He has afforded me in life is to make sure that somebody is never hungry, somebody is never clothed, never naked, or somebody is able to go to school and get ahead in life, then I would have done my job with God.
That's a heart of God, heart of compassion, a heart that cares, a heart that nurtures. What led you to become a prophet? And how has your faith, well, but we know about what led you to become a prophet, but how has your faith influenced your business? You just spoke about your philanthropist endeavors that you're doing right now. But could you share, you just shared that you're feeding the hungry, you're selling on you.
Yeah.
So you personally go into your pocket.
Yeah, Noah Foundation is personal, it's not from the church.
It's not funded by the church. No. It's not funded by that's out of your pocket.
Yes.
Oh, you should be commended this morning. I've met many persons, but you must be my number one humanitarian because we know the situation that goes on in every areas of the world, and that sometimes within Africa, there's not much for everyone to get in terms of to get good education, you know, and you're doing this out of your pocket.
Yes, I have. I find it a privilege to be able to help people. Yeah. Now, you see, some of us are grateful to God for what we have. Yes. I'm grateful to God for the people who say that because of me they have invested. And for that, it gives me joy.
I can see that. Wow. I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed and impressed with what you're doing out of your pocket, feeding so many persons and sending them to school.
God continues to provide.
And God richly bless you for what you're doing. Could you share also before we go into this, we're going to look at some videos, 1 or 2 videos of you preaching in that beautiful sanctuary of yours right there in the Republic of Ghana. We're going to take a short break. Be right back with you. Jody.
Touches your hand, may the grace on my life be available to you. I prophesy tonight that may the Lord enlarge you. May the Lord carry you to your next level. As you sit on the new seat of this house, may that level open up for you. May that level open up for you. I declare doors open. I declare that door open. I declare that door open. I declare that door open.
Welcome back to Pathway to Success. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Hunter, with Dr. Raymond Abban from Glory Center International, from the beautiful country of Ghana. Where in Ghana were you born at?
Accra.
Accra, Ghana. That's where Glory Center International is. Wow. Now, I'd like to ask you a question because many times I've watched videos I've seen your ministry in living colors, and I'm totally blown away at the prophetic, the insight. God would give you a person's name, their phone numbers, their address, and you just so relaxed, so easy. It's like you have not even worked up a sweat. You just flow so easy, and many times I say, oh my God, how does he do it? Then miracles, the great demonstration of deliverance Oh, I see people got delivered in your service. Could you share a particular memorable experience that you have had as a conference speaker that stood out?
There was, I think, about maybe 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I was in a village in Nigeria called Inewi, in the eastern part of Nigeria. And I was representing another pastor. It wasn't even my conference. I was speaking for a pastor who could not go. And then, nice church. I remember the night before, the power of God was so strong. I laid my hand on a young lady and something, an animal popped out of the hair, all kinds of things. So,
an animal?
Yeah, some cricket looking thing came out of the hair. And then I said that the next night I was going to pray for people who were deaf, could not hear. What I didn't account for was how many deaf people were in that place. So we get to church and I asked for those who cannot hear, and the queue started from the front all the way to outside the car park. Now at this point, I'm wondering how I'm going to deal with it one by one. And I remember standing on the pulpit, and even though I knew God will do it, the number of people struggling with that challenge in the place was a little disturbing. And my faith was withering instead of being confident to go on. And I remember hearing God clearly that day, let them all stand in a line and touch the person in front of them and pray for just one of them. So they did all of that, everyone's hand. So those who brought them held their hands and put on the shoulder of the person in front of them. It was long, all the way into the car park. And I put my hand on the first person's ear. And I did not pray. I said nothing. All I did is I shouted, Jesus, it is done. I took my hands off. For a couple of seconds, the whole place was still quiet. And then the person in front wasn't the first to shout. The screaming started coming from the middle. I can hear. Everybody from the front to the car park is healed instantly in one sense.
Wow.
Now, that's something that doesn't go away.
Everyone.
People start hearing. Everyone that couldn't hear in that queue heard that night.
Wow.
Now, that's not an experience you forget.
No.
That's something that sticks with you through ministry.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens, you know how far God can go for you.
Yes.
And that's one, and it happened at a very young part of ministry for me, because I've just been in there for a couple of years. So such a phenomenal experience about the power of God at that point of ministry was not only good for me, but it was motivation to keep going, that God can do it.
Wow, that's incredible. That's miraculous. Mm-hmm. That's really supernatural. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their own business? Because you have been in business for many years.
What I've learned about people is this. Most of us do things we see other people do.
That's true.
If you want to succeed as a business person, it's not looking at what others have done. It's number one, understanding what God has called you to do. And number two, making sure that what you're doing is meeting the needs of other people. This is what you learn in life. Everything that is not meeting the needs of other people doesn't sell. If your product is meeting people's needs, sell. If your idea of business comes from God, you will realize that it is always channeled at one thing and one thing only, helping humanity. But most people, because their sister is doing that business, their uncle is doing that business, this person is doing that, they are engrossed in it, and then they want to do it because everybody's doing it. The beauty of a successful person is your uniqueness. I learned something from a man in our country who used to sell heavy duty equipment. Now, it's big business and a lot of money, but he changed that into collecting refuse, garbage. And the collecting garbage has made him a bigger millionaire than the heavy equipment. And he says if he knew collecting rubbish was his pathway to success, he had no business selling equipment.
Yes.
And now from collecting rubbish and garbage, he owns a bank of his own. He owns media houses. He owns everything. So when you want to do business, number one, make sure you would have heard from God, so that your path is clear. You have a reference point. Most people have no reference point, so they quit. You need to understand that whether God is with you or not, you're going to have challenges. Now, a reference point allows you to weather the storm. Anybody without a reference point flows with the storm, and when the storm is over, they are not there. Anybody with a reference point knows how to kneel and wait for the storm to pass. Any good swimmer does not throw themselves at the storm. They dive under the storm and the storm passes over. A reference point allows you to sit, kneel, and wait for the storm to be over. Any business person must know, I need to hear from God, I need to be focused, I need to be disciplined, but most importantly, I need to know that if God be with you, who can be back against you?
Oh, it's powerful. Well said, well said, well said. Real estate. I asked you this question recently because you're so successful in what you do. And only one person that asked you, what's the best investment in these times? And you mentioned
Real estate is good. Trading money is good if you know what you're doing. For me, I may do real estate because it's convenient.
Right.
It's easy. I build easily. I understand it. So I can pick my phone and cost an entire building by myself.
Right. Okay.
I know what a bag of cement costs, what blocks cost, how much you need, how much a mason will lay in a day. I can cost that on my phone because that is me. But another person that knows how to do other things may find another thing coming easier to them. Now, not everybody can do real estate.
Yeah.
Because it requires time, it requires the knowledge of the field. So to me, real estate is get business now, because you can't lose in a building.
No.
It always appreciates as an asset. To another person, they may want to do something, but the baseline is that make sure that whatever you are investing in is not a liability. It's an asset that keeps growing instead of investing in things that depreciate. If you take all your money and you buy a car, as soon as you drive off the showroom, 25% depreciation affected the same day you drive off the showroom.
That's true.
But if you build a house 1 year down the line, Florida used to be cheap. Now the same thing that used to cost 300,000 cost $1 million. So if you bought a house when it was 300,000, you have 700,000 in profit. If you bought a car for 300,000, it's worth 50,000 now. So you make sure you are investing in assets, not liabilities.
Well said. That's powerful. What inspired you to establish Glory Center International? And how does the church make a difference in the community that it serves?
Glory Center is, let me speak business language. Glory Center is the brand for the work of God in my hands. With that brand, we get to do a lot. In the community we are situated in Accra, not only are we feeding people, we're working with, I don't know how you call that here. The assemblyman will be like not the mayor, something a little lower than the mayor. To city council, perfect. To help with a bit of the infrastructure in the community. We're located in a very interesting location where on one side you have a very upscale community, and on the other side of the street you have a very low scale community. So the needs of the people around us are not the same.
You're in a prime location.
We are in a prime location, but it's like this side of the street is upscale and very expensive, and the other side of the street is slums. So we're working with the man, the politician, to be able to meet the needs of those in the slum. We already started feeding the aged, the widowed. We're doing medical. If you go on some of our pages, I think on Instagram, you should find us doing health. We do some of them can afford. It's not like here where you can just walk into hospital and get treated. Our place you have to pay to go. So what we do is that every couple of months, sometimes monthly, or bi-monthly, we bring the medical personnel to the church premises. We put the tents there, and then the people come, and then they are attended to, and all that cost is on us as a church. They don't have to pay, we pay. So we do the blood works for them, we do the eye testing, and those whose cases are chronic and we cannot handle at the church premises, we take them to the hospital, and the church foots those bills.
That's great. That's Dr. Raymond Abban, you're doing a great job in your community. Philanthropist, businessman, pastor. What do you consider to be the most significant challenges facing Ghana and the world today, and how can we overcome them?
Challenges facing Ghana and the world at large. Leadership.
Yeah.
It's not just Ghana, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere in the world.
Because to lead is to be selfless. To lead is to have an agenda. The unfortunate thing with our leaders is they are not selfless. Everybody wants what I get. So you have leaders who will not die for their people. The hallmark example of true leadership is Christ. In order to save, you lay down your life. If we could find leaders who understood that concept, the world would be a better place. It's not a Ghana problem, it's a global problem.
Well said. Well said. What are your future plans and goals, both for businesses and your philanthropy work that you do for Glory Center International?
Well, if we got a whole lot more money, we'll do a whole lot. If God keeps blessing us, like I shared with you, we're believing God to move location to a much bigger place. We're hoping to have a school there from daycare all the way to college.
That's good. That's good.
We're looking to have hospitals there. We're looking to have malls, everything there now.
That's almost a city.
That's what we're trying to do. The point of all of that is to create a balance between the very high prime neighborhood we live in and the people who cannot afford it. I want people to walk into the church's restaurant and eat good food for free, not just junk. I want people to walk into our hospitals and not have to worry about paying a dime.
Wow.
To come there and go and they know they're treated well. We'll hope to have the best of doctors. Now, on the front of education, I'm not too much in favor of free education, but at least the church will subsidize it.
Okay.
So that church folks can get to school, if not for free, for less than the cost. And that I prefer a system where the rich can pay and the poor get to go for free.
That's good.
So we charge the rich 2-3 times the regular cost and make it free for the poor. Now, our facility will not be able to meet the needs of our country. So the plan that is on paper is, if you get into our school, you don't only pay for your kid, you pay for a kid that is not yours.
I like that. I like that. That's great.
Otherwise, you can go to a different school. But we're looking to build a school to a standard that makes it attractive enough for everybody to want to come there. But the condition is that after paying for all of your kids, pay for one kid that is not yours.
What a great humanitarian. What a heart of gold you have. How do you balance, you're also a father, an author, as we mentioned, businessman, philanthropist, and being a pastor over a successful ministry, Glory Center International? You wear many hats. How do you balance the time to find time for family, and plus the other endeavors that you do? And then you travel extensively. You've been to how many countries also?
How many countries? Maybe we can talk of the countries I have not been, but how many, I don't know. If we take out maybe the war-torn Afghanistan and a little bit, I've been everywhere.
Yeah.
At least I know I've done more than 150 countries.
Wow.
I've done every major city in Europe, every major city in North and South America, 90%, if not all of the Caribbean, a greater portion of Asia. I've done most of it.
But how do you balance? What time do you find for?
The cliche answer would be to say that a false balance and abomination unto God. So we try to balance. The truth is that, the truth is that it doesn't matter how hard you try, you'll be deficient in one area.
Yeah.
Because you can't be perfect all around. The appropriate answer will be that you become conscious of every need in front of you, and then you make sure you meet them. Trying to say that you would be 100 on all fronts is not possible, but you do your best on all fronts. And where you are deficient, you learn from and correct them the next time.
A man of great wisdom, a man of great, a man of great grace, a great orator, businessman, humanitarian, pastor, father, to the fatherless, to the homeless. I mean, to so many people. What are your future plans and goals, both for well, we've looked at that before.
Yes, we have.
We've looked at that before. But where do you see yourself, your future plans and goals for the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, maybe we would have, by the grace of God, finished the new project at church, allowing us to diversify properly. And then I keep telling people I want to retire very early.
Right.
And it's not because I don't want to work, it's because I want to get to a point in this life where I'm not running around to make things happen. But I want to get to a point where I sit down and I can impact to the next generation to make things happen. So when I say I want to retire early, it's not because I want to quit work. It's because I want to change the dynamics of what I do. Now I make things happen because I'm on the road. I want to be able to quit that and then impact 50 people, 100 people to be on the road to make things happen.
Oh, well said. Well, you have heard it from a great man. He's an author, pastor of a very prominent, successful church. He's a businessman, business owner, businessman, philanthropist, humanitarian, a prophet of God, father of his own kids, as well as fathers of the homeless, the fatherless, and the motherless. Tonight, we've been inspired by a great inspiration in Dr. Reverend Prophet Raymond Abban. We want to thank you, sir,
Thank you for having
for
me.
coming on the pathway to success and sharing your journey of success with us.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you all for joining us on this show tonight. Remember this: God has no problems. All he has is solution. Believe in the God-given gift that he has given unto you. Work hard. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all shall be added unto you. Have a great evening.